Hey, welcome back to Primary Target episode 18. I'm your host, Who the Puck, joined as always by my co host, Vargren, and our very special guest today, Ashy from Foxholers and Ashy in Space. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hi, hi.
Hello.
Hello. So today we're going to be going over a few things. Mostly, I'm going to be talking about Ashy's history in EVE Online. Going to talk about her wormhole group, Foxholers. Going to talk about their most recent eviction attempt, or recent eviction defense, I guess from this perspective. And we're going to talk about Ashy's website, Ashy in Space. So let's get started. Ashy, could you tell us sort of like your background story in Eve? Like, where did you start? Where have you come from? Like, where are you now?
I think when I first started Eve, originally back in 2012, it was like most of us really just starting out with missions back then. Eventually I did what a lot of us also do. I quit the game, came back, and decided to try out wormholes. This was back around 2014 or so. And I started out with just a little noobo group with Operation Worm Bear. I moved on from them to Laserhawks. I spent a while with Hawks. Started writing around that sort of time with Crossing Zebras, which is no longer really functional as a website. But if you Google it, you can still find it, Crossing Zebras. And then moved on eventually to, after a few stints in LowSec, making my own corp, Foxholers and the Alliance Outfoxed. Primarily wormhole PvP based. That's kind of where I'm at. Pretty much all about wormhole PvP. Although
So did you just went straight from like I'm a beginner newbie high sec doing idiotic missions and mining and stuff, and you just went straight to wormholes? You skipped the whole like null sec block PvP type thing and just went straight into the mysterious dark unknown.
yeah, I actually I kind of despise the nullsec way of life. Really, I can't deal with that at
Very
all.
wise of you. Very
Yeah.
wise.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of just jumping into a giant block and just being a number on a spreadsheet somewhere or something and just pressing F1 when I'm told to.
The way I've
And
always described it is it's like you're a unit in somebody else's real-time strategy game.
yeah, pretty much.
Hmm.
But I really wanted to get into something that was a lot more community oriented, so I'd actually have people to play with, and wormholes really did do that for me.
So, what is it that inspired you as opposed to like joining another group? What is it that inspired you to start your own group?
Well, this was after, like I say, I'd been a part of Operation Worm Bear at first, and then I had been in Laserhawks. I didn't really like many of my options out there, really. Then again, I didn't have much of a look. I mean, there were quite a few places I could have gone to. Shekel Squad was one of the ones that I considered at the time. Um, but to be honest, a lot of the reasoning was because I was quite stuck in my ways with bookmarking. I am,
That's
yeah. If there's any wormholers listening, they'll know the arguments people get
yeah.
into over mappers and bookmarking.
That is, in
Um,
fact, the most wormholer thing I've heard you. That's the most wormholer reason I've ever heard for someone starting their own alliance is like the bookmark
yeah,
system.
I was pretty much stuck in my ways, and I thought, okay, fuck it, here we go. Let's just do my own thing. Then I can use my own system, and then I'll be happy. And it worked. So
That's great.
yeah,
I can't think of a better
uh,
reason to be honest with you. Like,
obviously things have moved on a lot since then. These days, it's more about the community that I've built up. But yeah, back in I think late 2016, early 2017, I just started off on my own, saying, "Hey, come join my corp." And that was about it.
Come join our corp. We've got the best bookmark system.
Yeah.
um, so that brings us to like foxholers and like their beginnings. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I remember when I actually started it out, what I did was I reached out to Shekel Squad, who I mentioned, I spoke to Keeper of the Seven Keys and to Steel Roma. I'm not sure if he still plays, but yeah, Steel and Keeper. And basically asked them, hey, I want to start a Wormhole Corp. Can I just sort of do that from within your wormhole? So I'd have somewhere to live. Because it's a bit awkward trying to start a corp on your own entirely, right?
Yeah, right.
So what I was doing was I was just living with them, hanging out on their TeamSpeak, but recruiting for myself. And it probably took about 3 weeks before I got anyone joining me. It's a guy called Rex Reynolds who's still with me now. He's a great guy. And we just kind of recruited from there. We got about 5 people before we started rolling statics and looking for a wormhole of our own. And yeah, we've kind of at times collapsed and then rebuilt again. So we're basically on the 4th iteration of Foxholers right now. But it has just been steady growth really ever since about 3 years ago.
It really is an unusual way to come at it as well. Like, because I'm trying to think of anyone else I know who's gone down this route. Because almost everybody I know that's started a corp or an alliance has done it with a group of people already. You know, where they've already, you know, you've already got a bunch of guys you can trust. You know, people who you'd happily kind of like give your house keys to in reality. That kind of level of, you know, I've known this guy for a decade. He's not going to screw me, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it must, like, it's got to be an awful lot of pressure on just the one person if you know nobody, because it takes a long time to establish that trust, especially in a game like Eve.
Yeah, and that's to be honest, that is what killed the corp a couple of times. That was why it crashed and burned twice before. Well, yeah, twice realistically before we properly got it off the ground again. And it wasn't like I was tiny back at that point. I was still fielding fleets of kind of like 15 to 20 back about 2 years ago before it crashed and burned. But because I didn't have that established base of people I could trust built up, everything fell to me. And it was becoming a case of, right, I'd get home from work. Okay, it's time for my 8-hour shift of Eve. And it was a bit like that. So I would just kind of near the end of the year, like around September each time, I would burn out, and then other people would kind of stop logging in a bit, and recruitment became hard, and it just sort of stopped. But then we would tend to pick it up again the following spring, roughly.
It is tough being like the sole sort of content creator or sole driver of content in your corp, and like people sort of relying on you for that. And so here you are trying to like manage the corp in all of its facets and also provide content for them, and sort of feeling responsible. Like if I don't provide content for these dudes, they're not gonna enjoy being in my corp, and they're gonna like leave. And then on the other side, they're like, well, this is the person that provides content. Like I gotta wait for them before I can do anything. It's a tough thing to balance, and I can tell you that I feel I understand that feeling.
Yeah, it's pretty much completely like that. I was quite lucky to actually meet a few really good people that I could trust, including one person, Teddy GBYC, who is my fiance now, actually.
Nice, congratulations.
So, thank you. Yeah, so I mean, we've just got to wait for COVID to be over before we sort the wedding out and such. But yeah, Teddy GBYC is pretty much my co-CEO, I suppose. But
so would you say he's now on the trusted list? I would say we probably upgraded him. All right.
Yeah, for Eve,
started
maybe
a
not.
corp for bookmarks, ended up getting married. It's quite a story.
I trust him in Eve, just not necessarily so much to put the washing on or something.
I so get that. I would trust you with my life, just not with the oven.
Yep.
That's a very interesting thing. I don't know. I wonder how many people can say they met their fiance through Eve.
Probably not that many, I suppose.
That can't be. Yeah, that cannot be a big pool of people.
Right.
No.
Well, that's great. That makes me happy. This game brings people together in many ways, as we learned from Namo, and I think that it's great that we learned of another way that it's brought two people together. In
Yay!
yeah. Okay. All right.
You might have to cut
Um,
that bit out. I don't know.
I don't know. Um, so one question I had specifically for you, and we already kind of passed that part. You said you were rolling statics to find a wormhole of your own.
Hmm.
Um, Currently, you live, and correct me if I'm wrong, but currently you live in a C4 with statics of C3 and C2.
Yep. Yeah, we're currently in J1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, so it's a really nice JSIG.
Yeah.
Um,
That just sounds like a really shitty password.
yep. Yeah, but the original hole that we lived in, because Shackle Squad, when we lived with them originally, had a C5 static. We took a C5 C5. So a C5 was a C5 static, and we had a pulsar back then. And yeah, we took over that with just a pause and the 5 of us, and then popped down a bunch of structures.
Would you
And
say
yeah,
it's? Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say pretty much each time the corp has kind of collapsed and come back, we've moved to a new wormhole.
So would you say that it's more difficult for a smaller group to survive in high class space, like in C5 space?
Um, Not necessarily. You just need to have good scanners, right?
Right.
Because one of the ways that you can make sure that your corp has stuff to do is by having just good case-based access to Jita and stuff. Because sometimes if people don't see access to Jita and all they wanted to do was get their shopping run today done, then they might just log off again, right? But if someone does log in, do their shopping run, come on comms while they're doing that, it can just a little thing like that can lead to more activity. And being in C5 space, it's difficult to get some of those good connections, even to nullsec space sometimes, where you just want to go out for a roam or something.
Yeah.
But
Now
having
you're
having low sex, I was just going to say having low statics as in C2s and C3s, it allows you access to do things like needle jack fleets as well quite easily, because you can get home very easily afterwards.
is that I was going to ask you what your reasoning was for getting a wormhole, because that's not a common place that you find groups living in, is a C4 with C2 C3 statics. So I was wondering
Uh,
what
so
your thought was behind taking a
So
hole.
the thought behind that was prior to this, we had a C2 with a nullsec and a C5 static. So we had the C5 primarily for just a decent wormhole chain and for grabbing, and the nullsec for daily just content and rolling it and getting different different regions in nullsec. And
Yeah.
we'd roam out that nullsec all the time. We were evicted by Hard Knocks and friends. This was about a year ago, maybe ish. So yeah, moving on, we wanted to give something new a go. And the C4 was chosen, with the C2 and C3, because ideally we would then get more access to wormhole space in general out of two different statics. We were quite used to having to use battleships and not get caps for rolling anymore, so we were fine with that. And the idea was that we would still get plenty of nullsec content through the C2 and through the C3 if we rolled into somewhere that had a nullsec static already. So we should have, been able to pick up our null content while also enabling good, just generic wormhole content. In addition to that, you've got the nice thing for new bros in Corp, which is that a C3 is really easy to make money in. You can
Yeah.
make like 200 or 300 mil an hour just with a praxis or something. It's very,
Right.
very easy.
So, quick question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Uh, your eviction at the hands of Hard Knocks.
Hmm.
What's the story there?
This was back during that kind of World War wormhole sort of thing that was going on. We assisted with a few other 100 people to evict Hard Knocks a second time.
I see.
Yeah, so we brought about 10 people to that. As a result, we were put on the HK shit list and eventually evicted, as were many, many other people around the time. So yeah, we just came home one day and found 100 Lokis on the fort, which was unexpected, but there they were.
That'll make your day all sorts of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost that eviction. In fact, we pretty much didn't contest it, because when you're looking at that many Lokis, if they're coming close, it's kind of 400-500k alpha. It's pointless to even undock.
Yeah.
So we just saved up the assets that we could and moved on.
So your most recent eviction did not go that way.
No, so yeah, this one is a bit different. This was Whole Control coming at us for a contract. So they were paid by someone, 50 billion ISK, to evict us from our wormhole.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they were paid the contract job 50 bill to evict us.
Who would want to do that?
I have my suspicions, but I'm not going to guess on the podcast. I do
That's
have
incredibly flattering. Like, my God, that must feel like. See, I spent several years working as a mercenary, and I can tell you that's like not an insignificant contract. Somebody hates you enough to pay 50 bill. Like, damn, you are special. You are very special to someone out there.
Yeah, I think we know who it is. But yeah, so the contract to get rid of us, and they came into our hole with something like 16 or 20 Leshaks, 11 Guardians, a couple of Nesters, Balgorn, Armageddon, a bunch of jamming stuff.
How did they get that many Leshaks? Because those are what, 2 bill statics?
Yeah, but the Leshak is only 67 megatons mass or something. It's much less than a regular battleship.
Right.
So you can fit quite a few through, and 20 will fit quite easily through one of the statics. So yeah, they probably had, I think, 40, 50, maybe 60 people in the hole. So that was a bit scary. And I think we got a little bit lucky with our timer, because our timers are set just sort of in between EU and US time zone, because that's where our most of our player base is. And given that we were being evicted by people who are mostly kind of EU, like UK +2, like EVE +2, our timer came out at midnight UK time and EVE time, meaning that these guys were up at 2 a.m., which is a little bit better for us.
Right, yeah, that plays in your favor.
But yeah, so part of the way we won, I mean, other than having a spy in Whole Control, which was quite helpful, part of the way that we won was with a very unexpected fleet doctrine, as many people have seen, using Praxi or Praxis, the Praxis with Target Spectrum Breaker.
Right, so I'm not going to play games with you here and pretend like I knew what the Target Spectrum Breaker was when I saw your guys' fit. Like, I'm sure there's some people like, oh yeah, Target Spectrum, of course, that's what you would use, of course. And I think those people are lying, except maybe for those of you in foxholders. I think that very few people were familiar with the Target Spectrum Breaker. And if you wouldn't mind, would you please share with the audience what the Target Spectrum Breaker does?
Yeah, so the Target Spectrum Breaker, it's a mid-slot battleship-only module, introduced back around 2012, I believe. And what it'll do is it will pulse every 7 seconds or so when you activate it, and it will attempt to break any locks on your ship, including your own. And it does not do this in the same way as ECM. So sensor strength doesn't matter. You can have a million sensor strengths, but it won't change if this breaks your lock or not. It doesn't disable it for a while, like if you're ECM'd out or something, it will just break the lock and it can relock you again. And what will happen is that will scale up. The chance to actually break the lock will scale up with how many people are targeting you. So if you've got, say, like a few hundred people locking you, you're pretty much going to break like 80-90% of their locks straight away. What is quite good, though, is that this applies to drones as well, as far as I know. So each person who locks you, if they're sending 5 drones at you, well, that's 6 locks per person. And if you're up against a fleet of say, 50 people, let's say like 30, 40 of them actually DPSing you, you've got there maybe 100, 150 locks potentially on you. So it works really, really well. So you hit that button, right? And all of those yellow boxes or red boxes, they're gone, right? They can relock you, sure, but they're just gone. And versus something like an alpha fleet or in what we came up against, a Leshak fleet, so a fleet that ramps up its damage,
Right.
that is excellent because they just can't ramp their damage.
Right, that could not have been a better play against the Leshaks to prevent them from ramping damage on you. So that worked perfectly. My question is, was this always your defense doctrine with the target spectrum breaker, or was this something that you added on the fly to combat the Leshaks?
It was pretty much always the plan to use the target spectrum breaker. The original fit did have 3 sensor boosters in the midstow. We dropped that down to 2 and put a jam on as well, which is one of our refits. So another thing that we did was we just spread jams across their fleet. And when we had about 30, 35 Praxi, it meant that we had, maybe unbonus jams, sure, but a good amount of chances to jam them out, just spread across DPS and Logi, while also hitting with the spectrum breaker.
This is such a hilariously nightmarish comp to go up against.
Yeah.
Like, good lord.
So the original plan actually was what we wanted something that was going to be able to sit on our structure and work with our own structure, and just shoot to pretty much any range, right? So that's why we wanted cruise missiles. We didn't want to use, say, 1400mm artillery because we didn't want to have someone coming close and get under our guns and GG, that's the fight over. We wanted to definitely be able to hit no matter what. And we wanted to just sit there and basically be as strong as we could. So we were thinking either we go for something like Scorp Navy issues, which have got a good resist bonus, or Rattlesnakes with a good shield resist bonus, and then have some Minakawas, right? So we'd have to build some Minakawas in home and get a Fortizar set up. Or what we did instead was we went with Nesters, purely because of the amount of buffer that they can have. Nesters and the Praxis fits. And that was something where we'd look through just all the different armor battleships available. Even the armor Rattlesnake, which possibly guys will remember is a bit of a meme that they used. But looking through all the different armor battleships with cruisers, and it came down to the Praxis actually being the best, really, just in terms of you can get so much value out of those mid slots, as you've seen, as well as having a surprisingly good amount of damage due to the damage bonus and not a rate of fire bonus. What actually happened on the night though was we weren't sure if we could break their logic, because Hull Control turned up with 2 Nesters and 11 Guardians.
That's a
right,
lot of
to
Guardians.
support their Leshak fleet, and
Holy
when they've
hell,
got
that's a lot of Guardians.
when they've got 200k EHP per Leshak with 11 Guardians and 2 Nesters, right? You think, okay, you don't want to go out and just sit there and hit a wall. So we just thought, fuck it, we're going all DPS, right? Literally everyone just in a Praxis. And we actually did have one guy who wanted to do 2 Nesters because he had ults. Fine, he put in some good work, but for the most part, it was a pure DPS fleet that we used. And what we relied on was not only the target spectrum breaker stopping damage, because that would happen. You would be at, say, 80% armor, you hit that button, and the damage stops for a few seconds. It buys you that time.
Right.
And what we just relied on was reshipping. Because these are so cheap, right? Compared to a normal home defense doctrine costing, say, $1 billion or 1.5 bill per ship, the Praxis, when we bought them, they cost like 250 mil. So we had many of these in stock. And we had one of my good guys, Xiaojin, who was gunning on the Astrahus. And every time someone would dock up, right, because we had the frigate escape bay with Atrons inside, people would fly off, come back and dock up, and they would just get a new Praxis, again, without Logi, and just undock and start shooting.
So Hull Control didn't catch on to this and try to bubble your pods?
Oh yeah, they were bubbling us, but when you've got a 2-second aligning frigate and you've got a lot more going on grid, you don't really manage to catch the Atron that's doing 6k a second or something away from you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that was how we managed to reship.
So did you just bring the crates in? Because the Praxis crates would be easier to bring in than the actual hulls themselves, right?
It was a mix, really. Originally when we first set the doctrine up, it was primarily me and then anyone else I could get on comms, just shuttling these back and forth in their full entire form one at a time from Jita in DSTs to save mass on the hull. Because I just wanted to save money on it, right? I
Right.
didn't have that much money to spend on the Praxite, and buying the boxes is like 30, 40, 50 mil extra each. So it adds up. So yeah, but when it came to the actual eviction, after we took whole control and we'd burned through something like 30 or 40 of the Praxi stock, Teddy did actually run out to Jita and just bring 30 more back in a single DST. So
That's so easy. That's
yeah,
I mean, I love it so much as a fleet concept. It's probably the best like bang for your buck that you could have. Like nothing but praxis. It's incredibly easy to fly for anyone that's new. It hits like all of the hull bonuses because it's the Swiss Army knife of battleships. And it's
yeah.
impossible to shoot at them for long. It's like I
So-
really, really like this.
so. Were they just not holding reps with 11 Guardians, or were you alphaing the Leshaks down so fast that they were not able to get on in time? Like,
It was definitely the alpha. We didn't really time the alpha shots because we didn't really need to. I think if we'd actually, done a countdown 3, 2, 1 fire, we could have killed them in one shot. But we didn't. We just went ham and just shot things as fast as we possibly could on every ult that we could use, because pretty much any ult can use these, right?
right. That's the other beauty of it.
So
Is like anyone can fly the Praxis. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's so low SP.
yeah. So we're just firing away as fast as possible, and it was definitely the alpha, but maybe sometimes in two different waves of alpha that would hit them and just blast through any reps that did come in.
that's
I
amazing.
remember, our first target was a bit difficult to break, right? Because we tried to headshot their FC for starters. It's eviction defense, of course you're going to.
Oh,
Yeah.
you don't fuck around.
Yeah, he was pre-locked by everyone, so he survived for about 5 or 6 volleys, but then the last one just boom.
Nice.
It was then we started just blasting through them, and it was quite good. At the same time, I mean, they were killing us at roughly the same rate, but you kind of expect that, right? When
Right.
they've got
I mean,
ships
in
that
a
are worth
war
a
of
bill.
attrition, if your guys are in praxis and their guys are in Leshaks and you're killing each other around the same rate, it's definitely looking like you're going to take that as an FC, aren't you? That's a solid win.
When the strategic objective is to retain your hull, right, and you have the ability to reship, that's fine. Yep, just let them keep dying because we can keep reshipping, and they can't reship. So it's like, you win that fight.
Yep.
That's
Yep, and it's excellent. We had so many in the hole as well, because not only did we have our big stock in command, most of the members that we had their individual ones anyway. Because when I introduced this doctrine, it was around the time that CCP was giving them out for free.
perfect.
So I said, hey guys, you've got a praxis coming in like a week if you log in. Just take that and Corp will give you a fit for it. So we just subsidized everyone's fits, and there we go, home defense sorted instantly.
That's perfect. I will tell you that I was on. Me and my corps participated in an eviction around the same time yours was going on. And I will tell you, personally, I am jealous because I didn't get a fight, and your eviction there was a really good fight, a fight that everyone looked at and was like, "That's amazing." Praxis versus Leshaks. Praxis wins. This is outstanding, and I'm my hat's off to you. You've done well, done very well.
I'm just jealous that someone hates you enough to spend 50 billion. Like, honestly, I'm like, damn. I wish I was that special to someone.
Yeah, so I wonder, do they get the like some sort of reward for the attempt at least, or do they just fail the contract? I guess they fail the contract.
I don't know. Maybe they fail the contract. Maybe whole control will say that they still need to fulfill it and they'll come back. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll
So
see what
are you?
happens.
I assume you're like still in the process or still in the phase of like shoring up your defenses and like, uh, or are you just
Yeah,
if it comes, it
pretty
comes?
much. I mean, a lot of people packed stuff away, and a lot of stuff was holdout prior to that. So there's still a lot of getting things set up again. Really, just in terms of having doctrine ships, right? The moment the eviction began, there's no doctrine ships on contract. There's barely anything like we have free ships that we give out to people as well. Barely any of them were available. Pretty much everything was in eviction defense mode.
I see.
So we're still just kind of putting things back together, looking at our doctrines and saying, what do we want to do now?
How did you feel when it was all over?
Well, my heart rate was about 160 beats per minute.
How long how long did the fight go on for? Like how long were you guys slugging it out?
The fight itself was only 18 minutes, right? Because they only had 20 Leshaks, and when we're killing one every 30 seconds to a minute, then it doesn't last that long. Because we
I
killed
just
all but I think one or two.
just watching a Shat go down every 30 seconds is that's
Heartwarming
that's
stuff for any
yeah
wormholer.
yeah. It's
Yeah, it
not
was.
like it's not like your typical like armor brawl slugfest where you're just like you're testing tank, waiting for someone to go down. Like you're alpha. If you're alpha English shacks, that's that's something special right there.
Yeah, that's what the doctrine was designed to do. So it's good that it did.
So let's turn pages here a little bit. Talk about your website. Many people know you as being Ashley Trainer in game, CEO of Outfoxed and Foxholers, but I'm sure there's many more. There are many more people that may know you as Ashy from ashyin.space, your website, where
Yep.
you have like an enormous amount of helpful information, which I use quite frequently. A blog, uh, guides. You have quite a bit of everything here. Tell me about how that got started.
So that was kind of a follow-up to Crossing Zebras. So have you heard of Crossing Zebras
I
before?
have, yes.
Yeah. So for
I
anyone who
haven't
doesn't quite,
given it. Yeah, given
yeah,
explain.
yeah, for anyone who doesn't quite know, it's Crossing Zebras is or was one of the best Eve media sites of its time, I'd say. And by that time, I mean kind of 2012 to 2017-ish, 2018. And it was headed up by a few guys who no longer play Eve. But the editor-in-chief at the time was Naiden. And now Naiden has recently come back to the game. He made a bit of news doing so. But he quit about 2 years ago. And there's a whole story behind it. But the long and short of it is that Crossing Zebra has kind of died, right? We didn't have any more writers and stopped having that star power to produce good articles all the time. And I was an editor there. I also had a number of articles that I'd started writing for Naiden on that site. And it was also around this time that I got in touch with CCP. So I believe CCP were redoing their kind of media contacts. They were speaking to, I think, like, Imperium and Talking Stations, all just the different groups that existed. And one of the groups they spoke to was Crossing Zebras, and they got in touch with me because I was basically the only person left running it. And yeah, just actually through some conversations with CCP with a guy called Joe Bognar, who's since left CCP. We ended up discussing stuff, and he's like, "Hey, you should go run your own site." I thought it was a terrible idea, and it would never get any traction. Nobody would read it, but I tried it anyway,
And you were
and
100% right.
and it seems to have worked. Yeah, I just sort of transplanted my old content from Crossing Zebras on there, and just kind of started writing, right? And it's been around for about a year and a half at this point, and it's just slowly picked up more and more traction. I think at the end of last year, I was getting average about 270-ish views per day on the site. Currently, I get approximately 1,500 views per day, so it's gone right up.
Yeah,
That's
those
a
are good
lot.
numbers for Eve related content.
Yeah.
We can personally attest.
Yeah, it's I think it's mostly down to a few different things. I mean, it's definitely the guide content that people know me for. So there's the How to Crab series, just on making Iskin wormhole space, which is a bit of a definitive guide on that. I made a wormhole identification guide. I did a bunch of other guides on my site. A lot of people know me for my fitting, fit kitchen articles there as well. So I'll take a class of ships or a couple of different ships or something, and talk about pretty much every single way that you can viably fit it and provide those fits.
I actually I got to mention that I really did enjoy the Fit Kitchen Corvettes issue.
Yeah, that one
The
was
little
really
rookie ships. I thought there were some very cool ones in there.
that was a really interesting one. It's not often you actually design a fit for a rookie ship, so that was really quite fun to make, and it really shows how good the medium shield extender can be. But yeah,
Was that around the time that CCP announced the 5v5 Corvettes?
yeah, that's what it was for.
Yeah, okay. We had some
Yeah,
fun doing that. That was fun for us.
yeah, and I have had some good support from CCP over the last year and a half. They've tweeted me out a number of times, put me on their Facebook, and I was interviewed by CCP Clover at one point, so I do get a good amount of support from them.
Yeah. And I see that recently you've made partner with CCP.
Yes, so I'm in the partner program now, which is great. There's quite a few people in there, but that's not a problem at all.
Yeah, congratulations on that,
Yeah,
though.
thank you. It's quite a privilege being in that group of people, really.
Yeah.
Hey, we did that too, didn't we?
We did. I wasn't going to toot our own horn, but
Yay.
we did make partner, yes.
Ah, let's
Good.
toot. Fuck it. We're here.
Well done,
Go
folks.
Good job.
team.
Go team. I use the guides. I have two of your guides bookmarked. One of them is Wormhole Identification Guide, because I do struggle, as your guide says, to find the difference between C2s and C3s sometimes. And I hate bookmarking something as a guess. I absolutely hate scanning, going to a wormhole, and bookmarking it as a guess. And what I hate more is having to not bookmark it and then jump through the other side of it to find out what it is, and then jump back and bookmark it. Like I don't enjoy that. So your guide comes in
Yeah.
very handy, and it's spot on. Like I haven't gotten one wrong yet. So thank you
Good.
for that. The other one that I use is the C5 PVE bookmark guide, which again, that must have taken some time and effort. So thank you very much for doing that.
You're welcome.
You have done a
So
service to the community.
for the guys who may be listening to this podcast and have never been to Ashy Space, what would be your picks? What are your favourite articles? What do you think your own highlight choices would be?
I would say the standout piece really on the whole site is the How to Crab series. So I've got a number of categories on the left-hand side and in the sidebar on there, and you can just go into any of those, and there is in any of those articles there's 7 different parts, and there's a table of contents at the start of each article which you can click on to go to that specific part. And yeah, that is kind of the thing that brings people back every day really to my site, How to Crab. But I'm probably most fond of overall just of my general theory crafting articles. It's something that I enjoy doing in Eve, so if there's anyone listening who likes theory crafting and just the thought that goes into making fits, then I have dozens of those articles.
There are so many people who would fit into that to play you online. I think it's a rare time that you meet someone that plays Eve that doesn't have their own little catalogue of weird fits that they think are great.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are. Sometimes it's a praxis that wrecks the shacks.
Yep.
Yeah. So
But
where do you,
sometimes also it's like an armor jackdaw, and we shouldn't talk about things like that.
Dark Worlds.
Tried that
Dark
once.
Worlds
It's
in
not
his
very good.
armor. It's not very good.
It's not good.
And he doesn't listen. Dark Worlds, if you're
That's all.
listening, it's not good. Throw it away.
This is for one particular listener.
One person, yeah.
But anyway.
I will say one thing real quick is that I really appreciate one thing on your website, and that is that you have a night mode toggle. So thank you very much for that. That is by far the most useful thing I've found as far as like I don't know what the word is, UI user interface.
In fact, should we just have a little shout out here for anybody that has a night mode and the insanity that are people that have things in kind of bright white retina burning glory?
Are you a vampire?
So yeah.
Do you hate bright lights in your face? Night mode's for you. Thanks,
Absolutely
night mode.
everything Eve related should have a night mode applied to it.
This episode of Primary Target is brought to you by Night Mode. Where you find Night Mode, just buy it. Night Mode. Right. So, do you find that, I'm trying to word this correctly? Do you find that being CEO of both your corporate alliance is a more enriching experience for you in this game? Or are there times where you feel like, you know what? Fuck it all. I'm going to go be a high-sec miner and do my own solo thing.
I think definitely being a CEO is probably the best thing. There have been times where I've thought, hey, it would be kind of interesting to just not be beholden to anyone and just chill out and do something. But I think I'd get bored quite quickly. And most of the time, if I'm at home on the computer, I'll just be on TeamSpeak anyway, even if no one else is on. For whatever reason, I'll just be on there, and if anyone comes on, I'll talk to them, and that's what I enjoy the most out of Eve. In addition to writing and theory crafting and such, I just love having people to talk to so much. And I mean, it's kind of nice to be their leader in a way, but more than anything, the community in Eve is what I play it for. So
yeah, I find that the social interaction in Eve is what makes it so
worth it.
Yeah, worth it. Addicting was the word I was going to use, but worth it is also a word that matches.
I have long maintained that Eve as a game leaves an awful lot to be desired, but Eve as a societal simulator and a story and friendship generator is second to none. Like those functions that it serves, no other game ever comes close to giving you the kind of emotional content that Eve does, because everything is so real. Everything's kind of it's like this is a simulation of what society would be like if death wasn't that much of a problem anymore. This is how essentially people would act in that future. And as a result, you just get all these incredible stories and friendships that last for decades. And in your case, you find your other half by doing it. And that's just like, it's not something that would happen, I feel like, if we were all playing Call of Duty or Rocket League, as much as I do love Rocket League.
That is something that I passed over that I meant to ask you. And I'm sorry that we're backtracking to a prior topic now, but during your eviction, were there attempts made on either side to bat phone?
Oh yes, definitely on our side. I don't know so much on the whole control side because they do have an alliance with several different corps, and I think they brought them all. On our side, we pretty much reached out to every ally that we could. So I had something like 6 or 7 Discord chats going pretty much instantly as soon as whole control came in. And Teddy, my fiance, like I say, he got on to about 10 or 15 other people and just trying to get anyone that we can in. We were primarily supported by Be Nice, which is run by I think Teacher and Spinsy, who are lovely people. That's Prismatic Legion.
Yeah.
We also had a Polish group there. Teddy knows them. I can't remember their name for some reason.
How did
But
you
yeah,
get them in?
mostly just having the entrances, right? So when you're fighting for whole control, as in not the group, but fighting for whole control to own the
Right, yeah.
your statics. There's something called door stopping, and I'm sure both of you may know what it is, but for anyone who doesn't know what it is, door stopping is when you'll crit a wormhole, or perhaps even just have it destab, to the point where you've got a battleship, a Higgs battleship, on the opposite side, which will, at the sign of any sign of danger, or any time a scanner jumps out, the Higgs battleship will jump in and close the hole. So if you even attempt to go out and scan a connection, you'll lose your scout. And the way that we got people in originally, we only got about 6 or 7 people in for the fight. The way that we got people in was by just really, really quickly scanning the chain
While they were
before they
going.
got their doorstop set up, and then just going dark and just being really, really quiet, right? Letting them think that we didn't have it, while we burned over a fleet of people to that entrance in cloakies.
That is very
We would then,
difficult. That is very
yeah,
difficult to get that chain scanned out and get someone into that chain before they can close it. That's very
yeah.
difficult.
So they would be sitting there quite happily with their doorstop, and we would come in with a fleet of 10 or 20 people, all cloaked up, and have them land and try and jump the wormhole all at the same time. The first round that we did that, I had one of my ults potted out, so I led them back in, and I got about six people in, or 5 people in, out of my fleet of like 15 or 20. So it was a small number, but just down to different warp speeds and such, or different align times. But it's okay. I got a few in, including my ult. The second time we did it, which was something like 8 hours later, we had a not much bigger fleet. Again, about 20 people ready to get in the hole, including TD Sin, Zigzuki's guys. And they were being led in. But unfortunately, they had someone, and I could see this on Teddy's monitor because he had a scout out there. Unfortunately, we had someone in that fleet who decided not to listen to the FC, and he warped himself in his covops. And because he was faster than everyone else, he landed on the hole first.
And they door stopped the rest of the fleet out.
Yes, so he got in, and he's like, "Yeah, I got in, guys, I got in." And as he's saying this, the hole is closing, and the rest of our fleet is landing at the same time.
I would have
on
been
a
very
closed hole.
tempted. I would have been very tempted to pod that person out. Myself,
Yeah,
I would have been very tempted to be like, you know what? We don't want you here. Get out. I'm like, damn it. That's frustrating.
Yeah, so I think we're quite fortunate that we still fought off that actual armor timer and won that, because it was after we had the armor timer, at about midnight, we then went on to take whole control ourselves with the beefy fleet that we had, bash their paws, bash bubbles that were around, and get like 20 or 30 more people in.
They put an Astra down too, didn't they?
Yes, so we did the shield timer on that right after our armor timer too.
Well, again, I know I said this before, but my hat's off to you. You did a fantastic job defending yourself, and I'm jealous that there was a fight that I wasn't there for. Jealous that I didn't get the fight that I wanted where I was at. And again, I think I speak on behalf of everyone who saw the battle report and read your AAR when I say that was just outstanding work.
Yeah, I've got my command team to thank for it as well. To be honest, we couldn't have done it without them. Teddy was the one who actually FC'd the Praxi. But yeah, I couldn't have done it without them, and that's Teddy, GBYC, Boosted in the US time zone, Xiaojin and Kitai Kyo. That's my directors, and yeah, they were instrumental to it, really.
I tell you what, this Teddy guy sounds like he might work out. I would consider keeping him in McCall.
Have you thought about keeping him around? He sounds like a nice guy.
Yeah, he seems pretty decent.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of wraps up all of the questions that I had. Vargren, do you have?
Oh yeah. Just
Oh,
before we go, is your corp recruiting?
Yes.
Vargren.
No, I'm not. I'm not fishing for an
Oh,
invite. I'm
I
just
was like,
saying.
bro, what?
Give us
We've been bros for a long time. What are you doing? We've been friends forever. You want to leave?
Relax. Would you like to just give us a little recruitment pitch,
Sorry,
like in
go
your
ahead.
own
Yeah,
words? What do
my
you
bad.
What do you guys do? What are you looking for in a recruit? Encourage people into wormhole space.
Yeah, so we're in a C4. We're in a C4 as already discussed. C2 and C3 statics, and we're primarily a PvP corp. So if anyone would like to join, we could do with some more Australians. That would be nice. But yeah, we're just out there for wormhole and also nullsec chain. Nullsec content, just generic PvP where we can get it. If there's people who are coming to us thinking, "Oh, wormholes make me a lot of money," I'm sorry, we're not interested in you. But
Go home, you
you can be
absolute
my guide.
crabs. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, more of a community-driven corp, I suppose we are.
Any kind of skill point requirements or anything like that, or is it just if you want to do it?
Case by case basis, but we don't really accept alpha clones. We do
That's
have
fair.
one guy I've just recruited recently who's got like no skill points at all, but he's an experiment. We'll see.
Everyone has one of those. I know what you mean.
Hey, sometimes they work out.
Yeah.
You did.
Haha. Okay. Well, it has been absolutely lovely having you here on the podcast. For all of those of you listening, Ashy's website is ashyin, ASHYIN Ashy in space. Go check it out. You will learn some things, even if you think you know everything.
Turn on night mode.
And again, you're an absolutely fantastic person to read. I said this to you off air, but I find it very easy to read your blog, and that's rare for me to find someone who I enjoy reading, and it's easy to read the way that they write. So you guys should enjoy that as well. Ashley, thank you for being here. Appreciate having you
Yeah,
on as a guest, and hopefully
thanks.
we have some things to
Do more
discuss.
crazy shit. Yeah,
Yeah,
do more crazy shit with
please.
fleet concepts and
So
come
we
back
can
and
come back
tell
and
us
talk
about
about
it.
it. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll try.
All right, everyone, this has been episode 18 of Primary Target. Make sure you tune in for the next one and fly. Just fly. I don't know. Fly. Bye.